Come on, come all. Welcome to the Esports Central podcast. This is episode 51. We're past the hump and now it's downhill all the way from here. We're on the back stretch, guys.
Until they're all gone.
Did you just reuse last week's intro, Extremes?
Yes, I did.
Oh my god!
I'm running out of ideas. I said it's downhill from here. So I'm like, oh, I don't remember this stuff, Zimmer frame, all of that. But I am Extremes. You're Carmel Chikte, and we've got Gutter Lily as well. A reduced cast tonight, so we're going to have to make up for it with our witty banter and our massive personality. So I'm going to do jazz hands for the whole show, guys.
That is... I quit. Bring Glenn back. I'm kidding. But banter's a bit dangerous tonight. We have the scariest person in South African esports, Nadia, with us. I don't know what I'm going to say. It's going to be like, you look... I love your jacket today, Nadia. That opinion is great. That's about all the banter I have for our esteemed panelists.
Keep it safe.
Yeah.
I don't even know where I got this from. I am really one of the nicest persons. I even type tweets, look at them, consider posting them, and delete them. Thinking, you know what? Fuck it. It's just not worth it. Split that out because we're trying to swear less.
Yes, this is actually an interesting one. And, shout out to those of you giving us feedback. Not more than a couple have actually said we swear a lot, which tells me that these are people who don't listen to esports podcasts in general, because I think we swear a hell of a lot less than any other esports podcast that I listen to. But I appreciate it if you're listening to it and you kind of outside of the space, you're interested in getting into esports. I can totally understand that. It's something you wouldn't be used to, and we'll try and tone it down for you guys.
But we also just want to say, Yammer Dumini.
I was going to say, this week's poll could be, does Carmel say, fuck too much, too little, or up your fucking game, Carmel? That could be the poll. I don't think Sargon will approve, but I would like that poll,
Yeah, we're not going to go with that poll this week, but I think that's pretty sharp. So for those of you who haven't watched or listened to the show yet, thank you for joining us. We're all about opinions in the esports space. We've all been involved in esports in various capacities for a long time. Usually I could say we've got 50 years of combined experience, which is complete nonsense, but quite a lot of combined experience. But we're two panelists down tonight, so we're sort of new kids on the block. We don't know what we're talking about. Combined, no, I'm kidding. We do. And we hope that we'll have some insight that you guys are interested in hearing. And so, of course, on the Esports Central podcast, we do like to know what you guys think. And therefore, we do a poll every week. And let's bring up the poll from last week. The poll in which you could actually win something shiny and wonderful, which is interesting. That we had Syntec South Africa come on board with their brand Red Dragon, where they put up a Vata mechanical keyboard, which is pretty damn sweet, if I'm honest. And if I lie about it, it's still pretty damn sweet, which is amazing. So that was up for somebody who commented on it and voted on it. And the poll was, is the Battle Royale genre a true esport? It's esports ready. No, it's trash for views. It depends on the title or if it figures out issues. And it actually went with esports ready. So I feel like the PUBG South Africa community and the Fortnite community bombed our poll or something, because I didn't expect that result.
We don't care. It's good enough. Let's go.
I actually agree with the result. I think Battle Royale as a genre, I think PUBG is I think it's a good esport already. I don't think it's perfect. I think it can get better, as was all esports could. But I think Fortnite's a different situation. They garbage. But I agree with the poll. I think PUBG is solid. So
even
far.
Apex. I mean, there's certain technical things that would need to change. I don't think it's esports ready, perfect, ready to go. But I wouldn't watch it. It's not my kind of thing. But I can see why people who enjoy it would want to follow it in that sense. Not Fortnite though.
Yeah, I think I think for most people, it'll generally be players who are going yeah, we love our game, therefore we feel this, we understand. I'd say for outside of the MOBA games, where there's a huge burden of knowledge, other games kind of need to be accessible and relatively easy to understand for people to kind of get into it. And something like most of the battle royales, the concept is pretty easy. The problem more is just the amount of time between when things happen in the early game. You could have 20 minutes of people running around hitting the E key, so it's just, gathering resources and stuff like that. So I think that stage of the game just doesn't translate well to something for viewers. But if you understand the game, you're fine with it. But if I were to say pull in somebody who's used to watching something like CSGO or like a StarCraft fan or something, they'd probably find it like, okay, nothing's happening, guys. When's something going to happen? And there's also the additional thing of storylines. Like, who do you follow? It just makes it tough. I don't think the game is like Battle Royale is fantastic as a player. It's like a hell of a fun experience. It's just it's very difficult, I think, to translate as a broadcaster.
There is some action early on. If I haven't gone back to Apex after abandoning it the first time, but I mean, your first scene would be everybody going for the off the jump ship, and then there's that little plane with all the like really nice loot on it, and then you have fist fights and grenades going off, and whoever comes out of there alive is going to be geared to the teeth. So that's the man to follow until the story starts taking off.
But it's not like I guess I think of like a commentator and like somebody involved with broadcast. So like to me, I'd be like, so I'm a commentator. If I go into a game, I'm thinking, okay, well, to the viewer, I want to bring out the storyline of a player. I'm going to pick a player on the server, and I'm going to be talking about that guy because maybe he's been the champion for a while and he's failed recently and he's got to get back to his perch, or maybe he's the underdog who just never quite reaches it, and this time maybe it's going to be different. Maybe I'll talk about the duo who's on the rise and they're beating everybody, and there's a big buzz about them. So you're trying to create a storyline with what you're saying. And in Battle Royale, it's like you create the storyline and the guy gets sucker punched in the back of the head in the first 5 seconds. So it's like,
yeah, but that's also like exciting, right? Imagine you have an evil geniuses duo coming in, right? Holy shit, this guy's fucking smashed the last event or something, and then bam, they're out in the first round. As a commentator, we can go insane. We can be like, what? This guy just got shot. Round just started, like I think at the start there's like so much hype, like Nadia says, and then obviously there's gonna be the dull moments of people running around, and then you just do what we paid to do, full-time X streams, just talk.
I don't do that. I do CSGO. Stuff's always happening.
Yeah, it's doable, but
you know what? I will go on Twitch and pull out a VOD of you and Anthrax casting right now and show you how you guys fuck around in that shit.
Oh yeah. Hey, to be fair, it was 2:00 in the morning, bro.
Those are the best casts,
8 hours in, a whole studio, like 5 cameras pointed at us, a whole freaking green screen, crew, everything, and everybody's still there because these two teams are just screwing around. It's like, what else can we do? We're in overtime number 6. What now?
That's just how it goes.
Some people will never know the pain of a commentator in that sort of situation. Because let's be honest, in traditional sports, they don't go on for that long with one commentary pair. It'll never happen. Hey?
Well, you've got your set 80 minutes and it's done.
Yeah, even these sports that take long, like I don't know, Tour de France or something, it's not the same dude sitting there for 12 hours. It's, they swap out on an hourly basis. This commentary duo will be taking a break, but taking over from them will be this guy and this guy.
Fresh-faced and caffeinated.
There you go. It's just like cricket's like that as well. But esports, geez, I think it's more brutal than people realize.
Yeah, it's our job.
You keep laying that job thing on me there. Fantastic. Wow, burning a fellow commentator. Thank you. Anyway, for our viewers, since we've gotten a little bit, and listeners, since we've gotten a little bit distracted, if you do want to find out what's going on in South African esports, go to www.esportscentral.co.za. Articles and things up there all the time. And also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook and keep up to date with the podcast and what's going on. We do have some great guests coming up later as well. virgolizz and Paragon, both from the Overwatch community involved with the Overwatch World Cup. So look out for them. They're coming up a little bit later. Got some great insights into things, I'm sure. And, we'll ask them all the real questions, the difficult stuff, the hard-hitting, rough-edged journalism.
As much as they'll answer.
As much as they'll answer.
Them.
Well, you're the lawyer. I mean...
Listen, there's information I can pull that they would not disclose. So I'm thinking about it.
So you walk in and it's the single light bulb above the table, and you slap the documents down on the table. Isn't it true that on the night of
who's in the team? How were they picked?
Yeah,
tell me now.
And if you don't tell me, I'm gonna wreck you the way I wrecked Penguins in A for a year.
Penguins still can't sit comfortably after all of that.
I heard he has PTSD at this point.
Shame,
we don't talk anymore.
He's probably glad about that, if anything. Okay, well, we're joking around a bit, but we need to get on to some international esports. Carmel, you got some Dota for us, predictably, because that's all you can talk about, it seems.
You know what? I swear I spoke about like conspiracy theories about Fortnite that one episode.
Out of 50.
Oh, all right. So I'm talking about Dota 2 this week, and I feel like I'm a scant wannabe because every time I talk about Dota, I just moan about it. So this week I'm gonna moan about Dota a little, and then I'm gonna drop the dankest meme we've seen on Reddit like for the past 2 months. It's so good. Okay,
Building the
So there's an issue in
anticipation.
the
I think
Yeah.
we're going to be disappointed. That's my vote.
Okay, we'll see when we get there. We'll see when we get there. So we have a situation. I don't know, Ax, if you can pull up the tweet here by Moon Meander. It's in the doc. He's like, that concludes my run this season. The Tigers org has not been paid for the minor, plus the KL major appearance. Season before that, I also got scammed at GESC. I've made $0 playing Dota in DPC tournaments for 2 years now. It's tough to be a Dota 2 professional if you're not at the top. Sorry to all my fans. Good luck to the rest. And this is a really sad post for a number of reasons, right? One, Moon Meander is not just some kid off the block, he's a major champion. He was on Team OG. He was one of the most well-known Dota players in the world. Phenomenal offlaner back in his day, obviously still competing till today. But when you at the top, okay, forget even the at the top thing. When you're not at the top and you have situations where you win a tournament and you don't get paid by your org, when you compete in a major that has $500,000 to $1 million worth, $500,000 to $1 million worth of prize pool, and you don't get paid, also a problem. And this is going on for 2 years, and like it seems, I don't know, he's only made a Twitter post about this. I don't know if they've spoken to esports lawyers or anything yet, but it's just a sad state of affairs. And as people say in the Reddit comments, is like fellow tier 2 players, this is not the out of the whoa, how could this happen? This is the norm, right? Shit just happens in tier 2 esports, and Dota 2 probably one of the worst where it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's pretty concerning if you look at it. I mean, 2 years of playing in DPC and $0. Like if you look at DPC as a circuit, I mean, a lot of people have lauded it as this amazing thing that's changed the paradigm for Dota, and it's made the competitive integrity of Dota so much better. It's created the system of qualifying for TI, which is sort of the ultimate tournament in esports at this stage almost, if you look at the prize pool anyway. But if you're going to be grinding away for 2 years and you don't get paid, then it's a great system, but clearly something's broken.
What the heck? I don't know. Like whenever millennials complain about they want to get paid for something, people kind of pull it up like, no, you have to go through the grind. That's what you do. But it's not. How did he even do it? How did he even manage it without support? And almost nobody has that kind of support to make that kind of life possible.
Yeah, it's tough, right? It's tough on a number of reasons, and like this could segue into the next part because it's not a one-part story. I've moaned about the tier 2 support in Dota 2 scene for a number of episodes, like almost every episode, and every Dota gets brought up, like, oh, TI is at like $29 million now. Doesn't fucking matter because only like 10 people in the world are getting that money. The rest of the scene is bleeding dry, right? So the next one was also now this happened. This he tweeted during the TI qualifiers that's been going on now, and another tweet came from another player called Chessie. He was a pro in Hon. He played for Alliance after the TI3 era, like TI4 ish time for a while. He's like quite a well-known player, and this year Chessie has been playing in a team called the Final Tribe. So he's been a tier 2/tier 3 team. Like they've been playing in the EU region, so the EU qualifiers bloodbath every single time because there's no direct invites anymore, so all the top teams play, right? So he hasn't really made it to that many events this year, and he was saying that if he thinks he played in another region, he could have made it, but that's besides the point. If you're a tier 2 Dota team, his team for the last year has made $17,000 as a team for a whole year. Yes, they had a good org supporting them and stuff, but like he doesn't think the system the way it is works, because even if you're losing every qualifier in the finals, you can't even eat. That's the amount of money you make. You make zero, right? And this is the issue I've been talking about a lot, because I think it's a point. I brought up one podcast and GMAX said on Twitter, bro, I know what you're saying about the other aspects of Dota, but nobody really gives a fuck if it's not TI. Like TI is where the thing everybody cares about. And I think you're right. A lot of people just care about Dota for the best guys, the EGs, the team secrets, the VPs at TI. But I feel it doesn't matter what you think. I think it's in Valve's interest to care about the rest of the scene, right? They have the power to make it a scene that's sustainable for everybody. And the fact that there's so many players quitting, like, and this is not like shit, like random South African players not playing or me not playing. This is like people who have been at the top of the game or are right there on the heels. It's like Premier League, and then there's the championship below. Like those guys are not making 300,000 pounds a week like Pogba, but they can still like afford to eat. They're still professional footballers, and I feel like in Dota we don't have that, and I feel it's very unfortunate that we don't.
Because
I don't know. I've been talking for long.
No. Ultimately, at the end of the day, that group is going to be what feeds into TI, and without it, so it does feel like, I don't know. I think, but I agree with you in the sense that I think that Valve needs to support them in a way, because that is going to be the future of your, that's not a good way of describing it.
No,
but,
it really isn't. But I think what you are trying to say there is basically you the grassroots side of things, the floor, and that's kind of holding the whole scene up.
The base.
Yeah, if the base isn't there, then what's going to be there in coming years? Because you're going to end up with a sort of really lopsided scene where is it even really a scene where it's just the guys at the top and everybody else kind of just giving up on the thing? Because I mean, let's face it, if the talent doesn't come through, then the quality of the product goes down. Then TI becomes less prestigious because the Dota's shitter. So it's just. They're gonna create issues for themselves with the system. And I really hope Valve are actually looking at this. Do you think they are, Carmel?
I don't know. People have been saying this. I mean, this year I think this issue has come up a lot because I think this year is way worse than other years have been, or maybe I'm just paying more attention to it now. But I don't know if Valve are looking into it. You know what, Valve, like, communication with the Dota 2 community is like near non-existent, not completely non-existent. So we don't know if they actually have this issue with the system right now. I'm hoping in the next season there will be some changes. Maybe just have like online tournaments hosted with some prize money and stuff for like the non-top teams and shit. But I don't know how that's gonna go. I also think that what was I gonna say? I can't remember now. But it's an issue, right? I feel like the tier 2 scene is important. Oh yes, this is what I was gonna say. Was that we all love the Sumails, the Arteezis. This is what makes people passionate about Dota. You just see this 15-year-old kid come up, play for EG, win at TI, like the Thompsons. We've seen the story over and over in Dota, right? It's so exciting to see. Those are the guys we all root for. But if you don't have a sustainable tier 2 scene, you will not be seeing the next Sumail, the next Arteezy, because they have nowhere to come from.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. Now, let me end on the dank meme so we're not all depressed about Dota 2. Okay? All right. So during the qualifier, I'm going to give context to this meme. We had a caster there. His name is Blitz, a very well-known caster and stuff. And you know how the TI qualifier hubs go. It's just like relaxed people sitting on the couch, chilling, watching Dota together. It's fun. It's casual. It's the good stuff, right? And there was this copy pasta that went viral on Reddit, okay? It went like this. I'm not able to understand how William Blitz Lee is able to be invited to cast on Beyond the Summits mainstream, all caps, yet spend the majority of his time on camera looking at his phone, presumably at Twitch chat or Pornhub, which may be the only excusable option. He's literally the only caster to do this. It's insulting to everybody else. He's in the presence of greatness, Grant BSJ, and he has the cojones / audacity to stare at Twitch chat. I don't get it. This man gets a definition on his abdominals because he's gone a bit buff now. He used to be a bit chubby.
Okay.
And he's suddenly too good for BTS Stream 1. For all his talent, I hope the BTS producers talk some sense into this young man. It's if Blitz is going snobby, nobby, put him on the B stream and get Jenkins up in this bitch. As a Storm Spirit main, I'm disappointed, Blitz. You should know better. And then Blitz saw this on Reddit. He replies on Reddit and then he retweets the thing afterwards because it's so fucking hilarious to him. It's like,
jeez, that fan is massively triggered about him looking at
no,
his phone.
But I don't think he's triggered. I think it's a legitimate shitpost. Like, he's just making a meme, you know?
I wish he was massively triggered, actually. That would be better.
That would be even funnier, I do think. But I think it's just like, this guy is just a fuck. This is like Dota 2 humor for its finest. Now, every time you see Blitz on Twitch, like on a stream, you're just going to see this copy pasta all over. It's just like...
So what will it be that entire paragraph, do you think, every time?
Okay, let me see how Blitz. Obviously, for Twitter, I had to make it a bit smaller, but this is how it'll be. This is how Blitz tweeted it. Okay, this is the copy pasta. Okay, I'm getting his Twitter. I found
Settle
it.
in.
I found it. I found something on Twitter in less than 30 minutes. I'm so proud of myself. I'm unable to understand how William Blitz D is able to attend and cast on Beyond the Summit's mainstream, yet to spend the majority time of his time on camera looking at his phone, presumably at Twitch chat or Pornhub, which may be the only excusable option. Like, that's a good copy pasta, I think.
That's gonna be pretty great on stream, seeing that
Exactly.
the whole time.
Pornhub, the only reasonable option to go on while you casting. Like, actually, you should try it out sometime. I'm sure it's a good alternative.
Do not.
Coming to a couch soon near you on camera. This is why, I was having this conversation with somebody to do with the VS Gaming broadcast about just moving the camera up so that you can't see feet and crotches. You know what I'm saying?
He went there.
Anyway, moving on. Let's move on to something that's equally sort of puzzling, baffling. I don't know really where you want to go with it. I know where I want to go with it. It's CSGO, and we've got a fair bit of CSGO happenings this particular week. So I'll bring up here on browser for you guys. Article from a little while ago, from the 6th of June, over on Deserto. CSGO blast under fire for cancelling tickets and quadrupling price for LA event. We didn't talk about it on here, but
Good grief.
that's quite a funny one. Now, the LA event actually happened this last weekend, and what's kind of interesting about it, aside from all of those particular things, like definitely we've spoken about blast in various contexts lately, they actually explain in this how the prices changed for the tickets up to $149 in some cases, where it was $25 for some of the same tickets before. The venue before was the Galen Center, which is I think it's a hockey arena if I remember correctly. So very nice, prestigious venue, and the name that they gave of the place was HD Buttercup, which is what it's moved to. And that's actually a literal furniture store, is what it is. And like, a lot of people were super confused about what this was going to be. As it turns out, like, this company HD Buttercup also have a bunch of venues. So I've just brought it up on screen here as well, and you can see some of the venues here. I think they used this one that I'm hovering the mouse cursor over, Event Venue 1, but it's like got a wooden ceiling. So what also came out over the weekend was that they weren't allowed to use any pyrotechnics, because in CSGO the bomb goes off and then there's usually, fireworks and things, and they weren't able to do that because the venue's roof was wooden. So they try to sell people on this blast experience, where it's like a close, intimate experience for fans, the likes of which esports has never seen before. And kind of what it seemed more like was that just the venue's really small and the crowd is very close to the stage, So it's just very cringeworthy for a company that's as big as they've gotten in esports, and they've been criticized a lot for their sort of anti-competitive approach to things, but as it turns out, maybe they got their comeuppance in some ways. Yeah, I watched.
What was the reason for that, though? Was it just
they never really said. So
not sold out, or
I think it's probably likely that it's not sold out. And why I'd say that is, like, typically, from what I've seen anyway, big esports events in North America often aren't sold out because, it's generally people have to travel long distances. It's kind of like the same issue we have in South Africa. Things are spread far apart, and trying to get there is always an issue. In LA, trying to get anywhere, I know from personal experience, is very difficult. Traffic is just ridiculous. But it's also because there's so many events in big cities like that. When you take it to a place that's a little bit less, populous, less famous, but still a big city, you'll tend to get more people will come to events just because it's more exciting. We don't have, a movie premiere every weekend and, 5 major sporting franchises having their home games and stuff. So there's various reasons. I mean, I'm obviously simplifying it a lot, but in general, I mean, events in New York and LA and things like that tend to have not been attended like some others have. Maybe American fans are just shit. I don't know, but
Okay.
But
American
really
viewership, goodbye.
Extremes that blast the hottest thing on the block with their BO1s and exhibition CS, globetrotters around the world that only use up 12 weekends of the CS calendar, couldn't fill a 5,000 seater stadium. I'm shook, bro.
Yeah.
I'm finished. I don't believe
Such a good product. Everybody wants to watch it. But actually, with that soft exclusivity they try to create for themselves, I think they actually got super wrecked by ESL and Cologne, because ESL and Cologne was the first event that we've had probably since the major where all the really big teams were at it. And we've been sort of starved of that because of the agreements that Blast have with these teams where they have to attend the Blast events and they'll tend to kind of skip on some of the other ones. So we literally had all the best teams there, fantastic format, best of threes, the vast majority. Like, it was a punishing format. So I think the Vitality played 17 maps in the tournament. So I mean, that tells you they really had to like earn that space. They didn't just play 5 BO1s and then end up in a final, you know. So
Reminds people of what it is actually about.
exactly. I think that did that for the scene. The viewership was fantastic. People were talking about it. It was just an amazing event. And I think Blast may have done everyone else a favor inadvertently by sort of denying everybody the best possible format for Counter-Strike, the best possible teams. And then when it does happen, everybody goes and looks at it and goes, well, geez, what they were doing was really shit after all, because it just... It really did expose that. So we had Blast LA over the weekend. I tuned in for the stream a little bit, and like they certainly do put on a good event. It looks good, but they had like a live music act at one point, like an indie band playing, and I was like, what the hell is this? What am I watching? Band is okay, I guess, but why are they here? You know, it's just
That is strange.
It's always such a yikes at esports events. Every year, TI after party, there's some like random ass DJ there, and you're like, why, Valve? Nobody likes this shit.
Yeah, it's just, I think that's actually a topic for at other points as well, as the old musical acts in esports. Because ESL and Cologne did it as well, and they also messed it up too. After last year's was amazing, where they had an orchestra and it was just, you know, synced up to an amazing video, and that was great. And then this year they try to make it for the kids, you know, and I don't think that works. It's almost as bad as the DJ Khaled thing with the Overwatch league from last year.
Oh my god.
I think that was the worst, eh?
Moment. Yeah, for sure. Although I will say, League of Legends does one fucking good thing that League of Legends does is they have banger ass tunes for their game, dude. Imagine Dragons made them a song. They had that KDA thing. That thing was the best esports song of all time.
Did you just say Imagine Dragons made a banger of a song?
Okay, I'm gonna edit that out. I'm editing.
No, you can't take that away. Like,
it's just
you basically just said Nickelback is cool.
Fuck. I don't like the song personally. I don't like Imagine Dragons. It was just a good song for the game. Get me out, man.
I'll try and save you. So,
all right, go for it.
Coming back to Blast, we had Team Liquid yet again taking another tournament. That's 5 in a row now. I think 6 in a row, maybe. So, yeah, good for them. They did introduce best of threes in the semifinals. They're actual semifinals at Blast Pro Series now. So, you know, they're listening to the community, but the viewership was not 500,000 like ESL and Cologne. So again, I think maybe they have some issues. And tying into that, what's quite interesting is we had an article coming out from Richard Lewis over on DeSoto. It was in response to an HLTV interview. Well, it wasn't quite an interview, but it was a press release, shall I say, from Blast Pro Series, in which they were saying that they're basically getting rid of Astralis. They're selling Astralis off, and you know, they'll not be this conflict of interest anymore, because you know, they're not a tournament organizer that owns a team. So he wrote something about it as well on the HLTV piece, and actually managed to find an internal email of Refresh Entertainment. I don't know how he got hold of it, but it kind of goes along the same sort of lines as the press release, but it has different details in it that sort of make it sound a little bit less like it's that they're completely selling the team and more like they're just putting it in another company, and it really isn't that separate. So yeah, yikes. But there's even mentions there to hopefully this move will silence the trolls in the community, and I'm like, wow, okay. They're very aware they're being criticized, and they're hoping to shut them up. So I guess it didn't work as it turned out. So I guess we'll see as that one develops. But I do think it is a fundamental concern if a company that runs tournaments also owns a team. That's just opens up. We've mentioned it before. It opens up all sorts of opportunities for abuse. Interestingly, I saw locally in the South African context, I saw in the EVTech Champions League rules that they don't actually allow multiple teams from the same org, which is I don't think I've ever seen that in a South African
I also know. I
tournament.
know specifically in Overwatch, I know DDC is running 2 teams. That actually made it through. So that's interesting. But I think it's also because our local scene is so small. Like it's mostly people who are actually interested in it that start these tournaments and that starts these teams, and it's all one big mushy thing.
Yeah,
I'm very good with words tonight.
yeah, I see that. I see that. You need more alcohol in you.
Listen, I said something nice about League of Legends and inadvertently said something nice about Imagine Dragons, so I'm having a worse night than you, okay?
It seems like it. But like coming back to the conflict of interest thing, I think in the international context it gets brought up quite a lot, and this whole Astralis being owned by Refresh Entertainment, who owns Blast Pro Series, that's obviously an issue. Valve themselves have released rules in the past, basically where teams that were owned by the same entity couldn't own 2 teams, basically. So in Refresh Entertainment's case, they own 3 teams. They own a team called Heroic and a team, not Heroic, sorry. Yeah, they did own Heroic. What am I saying? And they own Godsent as well, and Astralis. So like that got changed probably a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. So even ESL were looking at it because they were the first guys to actually bring those rules in and said, like, you can't do that. In a local context, we kind of excuse it the whole time because it's like, scene's so small. So, it's fine if you own a broadcast company, you own a team, and you're a caster and you're a player. That's fine because, we're a small scene. But there will come a day where that kind of thing is not going to be acceptable because from a larger corporate point of view, when you get big sponsors involved, they don't want to hear that the guy who's on the broadcast talking about the team also owns the team. They don't want to hear that shit because that's where it becomes very ethically dubious. That's where things like match fixing can
the teams match fixing very easily, and it's difficult to prove.
Exactly. You look at the situations in South Africa, remember Viventus, where they would have like freaking 5 teams, 3 teams, like in all esports, and just the possibility for if we look at HLTV, where they refuse to cover CSGO matches in certain online leagues because of the possibility of match fixing, because of how likely it almost is within those sorts of tournaments. I mean, and can you imagine if South African tournaments were on there? They would never put on like a tournament where there's 4 Ventus teams in the same tournament. They would just look at the bracket and go like, no, screw this.
No, what is
that ain't going up.
Crazy.
Yeah, I think in South Africa it's a bit of a double-edged sword, this conflict of interest thing, right? Like Barry was saying when I brought up the Girls and Lighters casting event with their own teams playing. I think, like Anthony now brought up with like Bravado hosting an event, like a tournament, and then having their own players playing in it. I think it is a conflict of interest. I agree, but it is a small scene also. So it's like I don't
Where's the
think
line?
anything shady is going to happen for Bravado players in the Bravado tournament because I think I know all these guys. I don't think something like that could happen. I don't. So I would go there. I would support the event. I wrote an article about the event. I think it's great, but the thing is, if something does happen, it looks bad for a lot of parties involved, right? I think the team thing I think is a bit silly because in my opinion, like 90% of MGOs in South Africa are not real entities. They're not like, you don't pay for flights, you don't pay for accommodation. It's like, oh, but VS Gaming said they're going to pay for that. Well, if VS Gaming have to pay for flights and accommodation, mate, then you shouldn't be an MGO, lad. So yeah, I don't think for most teams it shouldn't be like an issue. But like, I guess if you have a case of like, I don't think Goliath have 2 Dota teams, right? If Goliath had 2 Dota teams and then they went to an event, I think like, then it's like a bit of a, I don't know. I just don't see how
one
that
of the things that I noted, which
Leave the
maybe
fucking org.
it's not that much, but if you've got teams who are playing like on the fringe of going from first division to like Premier Division, and you know that there's a better team, then you can easily assume that something can happen where a team might throw a game to make sure that somebody in their org goes through.
Yeah, I've heard of things like that going down.
It's a very fine line. Like, it's not saying that it has happened, but it's something that can happen, and you have to be aware of these things that it can actually happen, and it makes the integrity of the entire thing look really.
Yeah, I think the question always, even if we go in the international thing, Blast Pro Series, Astralis, Refresh, Entertainment, the potential for something happening is there. The fact that the potential exists is a problem in itself, because if the potential is there, then it throws doubt. It can throw doubt if something happens. So if there's a situation where a ruling has to come in from the TO and the TO owns the team, and the ruling goes in favor of the team they own, then everybody's gonna lose their minds, because you look at it and go, like, even if the decision was right, it would make you go like, oh, but it's their team, you know. So you'd almost want them to be like harsh on their own team or something, but
You expect the result.
exactly. So it's a tough one where it's one MGO with multiple teams and they're facing off. I mean, I think it's, again, as you say, like, overall, yeah, it's probably not a problem in local esports, but can you imagine if that 27 trajectory had continued? Last year it was 2 million rand for CSGO. This year it's 4 million rand. It was just like going like that. Do you think that that would have been okay? I don't think so.
We
I
South
think
Africans love some corruption.
Yes.
Our track record is not
I
too
think-
No, this is true.
I think if I was hosting ESEA South Africa, I would probably make that rule that you can't have it like that, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's something that'll come into play as esports grows. But I mean, if you listen to this podcast, you probably don't think it's gonna grow. So I don't know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, with us people burning it down all the time, toxic people on this podcast.
Yeah, it's interesting discussion point. I think it's something, if we revisit that in a year, I wonder where the discussion might be.
I hope there's no scandals that we're talking about in a year. I really hope,
hope
because
so too. I
'cause,
don't
like,
want to see another
low-key,
caster crying on a broadcast about his team losing.
Oh, what, did that happen? Seriously?
It did.
Recently? Shit.
What? Don't you watch and support local esports?
No, I just listen. I never look at the camera.
Hectic.
Anyway, let's go back to international esports, and I'm never done with Counter-Strike, as you know. It's my chance now because Prof's not here, so I don't have to share. That's
I mean, you go ahead.
do you?
At least I understand this one.
Oh yes, yeah. You know, shooty, bang, bang. It's pretty
Shooty,
easy.
shooty.
So yeah, here's another one that I think maybe ties into what we were just talking about. Team Vitality rated second on HLTV in the HLTV rankings. This team, they're fairly new, so they weren't in ESL Pro League, and they had to qualify, so they're playing in the Mountain Dew League, and they managed to get to the Global Challenge LAN finals, which in fact the South Africa's ATK were at as well. Unfortunately, they didn't win, but they did play Chiefs from Australia pretty close, so good job playing with the coach. But anyway, I digress. Team Vitality actually came into this LAN not wanting to play this LAN. If we look at the headline, yeah, Nathan NBK Schmidt, he's the de facto leader of the team, even if he doesn't in-game lead anymore, has explained that his squad's actions at the ESEA Season 31 Global Challenge, explaining why they originally wanted to forfeit their spot in the tournament but weren't allowed. Now, the reason for that is basically being there, and I think getting through the first round would ensure that they'd make it into MDL. I might be wrong on that. They might have also played a placement game before, because I think I got to remember now on the format. But you'd think I'm not an MDL accredited caster, but I am. I just didn't read the rules properly. But as it were, basically they'd already done what they needed to get into ESL Pro League, which is the most prestigious league in the world, basically, for Counter-Strike. There's a North American and a European division. They made it to the European division. So they go to the Global Challenge LAN finals, and that's all great. It's for a prize pool, but the prize pool compared to what they're used to playing for is just, it's minuscule. So the number 2 ranked team in the world, they don't care. They're not there for anything other than that they're being forced to be there. I assume ESL probably told them, hey dudes, if you don't show up at this thing, we'll just, forfeit your spot in Pro League or something. So what they did is they basically memed on the other teams. They played around. They played with the wrong weapons. They basically fooled around and still managed to win a bunch of games and make it into the semifinals where they finally lost. So again, it shows you how much higher their level is than the other guys that they were playing who just trying to get into Pro League. And even with them playing with stupid weapons, they managed to get to the semifinals, which is it's kind of sad. But I guess it brings about that question, like, is it okay to essentially throw if it doesn't mean anything to you, but it does mean something to all the other people playing there?
It's not throwing if you win.
Yeah, they got to the semis doing that shit. I think the other team did it to jack up. I mean, I joke, but okay, I don't think I think fucking around and throwing is two different things. I think I think there's a fine line between that either. I think there's a difference of going like 15-0 or 14-0 in CS and then losing 16-14. It's like, yeah, that's throwing, right? But I think also, who's the blame gonna fall onto here? Is it these guys for mucking around at a tournament? Or is it ESL for making the second best team in the... It's like making Man United go play fucking some championship game. Like, why?
Yeah, it's
It's like,
a
doesn't
I
make
strange
don't know
one.
if that's like Manchester United is supposed to do good or bad in that scenario.
Okay, Manchester
Burn.
United 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's like part of their justification for not really trying was that they just came from ESL and Cologne and they're going to IEM Chicago this weekend. So like they haven't had any rest or time off or time to kind of decompress from basically playing against Team Liquid, the best team in the world, and trying to, wrestle the title from them. So their justification is, well, listen, we just needed to chill because like we have to now fly to another country and spend time here when we don't want to. So we're just going to enjoy ourselves. And I get that thinking, but it's like the other side of the coin is also like you'd want the team to give their best effort, right? So
Yeah, but you can't.
It's unprofessional. I
yeah,
think that's
it
what
doesn't
it comes
seem
down to at the end of
professional.
it. You are a professional sports person. It's like having whenever the Springboks or whoever goes and play a exhibition match and they just, I don't know, playing netball on the field. It's I mean, you wouldn't do that because
Look,
that's not what you do. You
it,
do your job.
it's unprofessional. I get that. I get it. I get where y'all are coming from. But at the same time, from ESL's point of view, it was a stupid move for force them to play. You can't have them be in the finals of the Cathedral of CSGO, the fucking TI of CS, ESL 1 Cologne, and then the next day say, yeah, but y'all need to prove yourself in Mountain Dew League. Like, come on, man. That's like, that's like saying Roger Federer, if he pulls out of some shit ass 250 series tennis tournament, and then you're like, oh, but you told us you're gonna play, Roger. I don't care about your Wimbledon final coming up soon. Fuck that, you're gonna come play in our shitty tournament.
But
Like,
they committed
you
to it,
can't
I'm assuming.
force
and
him.
Can't
I don't
force-
know.
Yeah,
Like-
I think it's a difficult one because I can see both sides on this. Really, I can see why the players would feel that way. They'd almost feel like, listen, guys, it's an injustice. Why are you
Okay.
forcing us to do this? And I can see the tournament organizer side too, and I can also see, just from a fan point of view, if you wanted to watch this and you want to see them do well and do what they can do, which is be freaking amazing. They probably got the second, maybe even the best player in the world now, Zaiwu, who's almost as good as Simple at the moment. It's you wanted to spectate that and you didn't get that, so I can see why you'd go on Reddit and whine about it. But yeah, interestingly for this tournament, one of the top 5 teams in the world, I think they might be ranked 3rd or 4th now, ENCE actually pulled out of it. They just went like, nope, we're not going to do it. So they actually didn't qualify for Pro League because of noping out of MDL. So I mean, there's the more extreme response where they're just now not going to be in Pro League, which is, I guess, gives them more time, but it doesn't give you a crack at that prize pool, does it? So
Oh gosh.
Okay, so I'll have one more thing to add to this. Tournament organizer, I don't think you're completely in the... I know I've been shitting on you for the last 5 minutes or so, but I don't think you're completely in the wrong forcing the team to live up to their commitments and making them play, right? I don't think that's actually wrong. But I do think, like, optics of the situation, you need to make the best out of a bad situation here. And I think forcing the team to play and then them mucking around is not the best of the situation. Not for you, not for them, not for nobody. It's good for us on the podcast that we can fucking make jokes about it. But for anybody else, nah, dog, that's not a good situation.
yeah, I think it's gonna force them to rethink how they're doing it, because what they're trying to do is basically make all the teams in the world, no matter where you are, basically work your way through the system to get to the top league, which I get the competitive integrity aspect, but do you almost think, in the case of ENCE and Vitality, 2 teams in the last year that have come from nowhere and been competitive with the best in the world, you can't really plan for that scenario. They didn't start at the bottom and work their way up. They pretty much started in the middle and shot to the top, so it's something they're going to have to change.
Yeah, where, if you have won certain things, then surely that should just give you a spot somewhere in the middle to get.
You'd think
not
so,
start from
but
the
I mean, for these teams, they're not necessarily in the wilderness by not being in Pro League, but they are missing out. They can play in Faceit's ECS League, which is nearly as big, but it isn't as big. There's that. So it's an interesting one. I think ESL are going to have to rethink this one because just where it's at right now, you've seen the two extreme examples. One team that goes, well, fuck this, we're out, and the other team says essentially the same thing, but they do it in person there. So hope that doesn't happen again. And one last one. I am having so much fun talking about CSGO. It's almost back to my good old days of being on a CSGO podcast.
Get me out.
Oh, well, we're nearly there. So Cloud9, they came in with a new team recently under the organization. A completely new team except for one player. And they've jumped 281 ranking spots on HLTV after winning one map. And the reason why is because the way HLTV's ranking systems work, they played at Blast Pro Series, which is a big event. Yeah, we can see that beautiful wooden roof, in fact, on the link. And basically from playing one game against top tier opponents and then losing the others that they played at the tournaments, they basically jumped all these ranking points being a new team. And it's just kind of suddenly they're a top 20 team after winning one best of one. And there's quite some unhappiness amongst some pundits about this, because if you trust the HLTV rankings as being the definitive ranking of who's where, how can that be possible? There's got to be something wrong with the ranking system in people's mind. But then that also makes you go, well, is HLTV's rankings the be all and end all? They're just a website after all. It's a crazy one. I've never seen anything quite like this. We had Kevin Hitt from Upcomer who's tweeting about it. He's one of the guys that brought people's attention to it. Nell, the French CSGO journalist as well, speaking about it. And it seems to really create a lot of traffic on the internet with a lot of viewpoints of like, well, you can't hate the players, it's the system. I just think overall maybe it brings to mind that in Counter-Strike, maybe trusting one website with who's where in the rankings, maybe there does need to be a Valve sanctioned something where they actually work out these sorts of things.
All the different leagues and stuff, because it's not like a traditional sport where you would have all your teams in one thing, and if a low level team beats whoever won the World Cup, then they would jump significantly. This is just all over the show. So I don't see it working.
Yeah, they assign different points values to depending on how important the opponent is, how important the tournament is. So, I mean, again, Blast Pro Series not that important in the grand scheme of things. So we're a top 20 team. We won one map.
Yeah, I think random rankings like in esports, because I'm not really aware of a real ranking system in esports. I could be wrong. There could be one that exists, but from what I've seen,
you're a tennis fan though. ATP World Rankings or whatever. Surely in esports we should have somebody independent kind of or connected to the game developer actually looking after that kind of thing.
But it's going just interrupt. It's going to be a lot easier. I think in a game like Overwatch where you have Blizzard in control, the overlord sitting there, and you've only got their sanctioned things running. So the players, the teams, all of that, and to work it out from there. Whereas Counter-Strike is a completely don't swear.
I think it's
Wild West.
Yeah, it's an outlier in esports in that there's just so much independent happenings in terms of tournaments. So I think it's a tough one to figure out, and I don't entirely blame HLTV, but I kind of do as well.
Well,
I think I blame the community more than HLTV. I'll give a good example. In Gosu Gamers also have a ranking thing for the Dota teams. And I think Goliath Gaming were top 100 ranked there at some point. And Goliath Gaming are not a top 100 team in the world. They have ancient level players. They're not, So it's rankings are very arbitrary in my opinion. But I think a tennis system could work for CSGO though, because you have how the tennis system works is a Grand Slam is worth this amount of points, and you have the event worth next to amount of Grand Slam, and you have an event less than that. So if you can get to an agreement on ESL Cologne is not a major, but it's worth this is a tier 1 event, and you got a tier 2 event, and you give a point based on results there, it could work. But I think the issue is getting people to agree what's worth what. That's the issue. Maybe if HLTV just make their own arbitrary thing, this is the events we sanctioning tier 1, this is events we sanctioning tier 2. I think their system is probably more clever, but it's also like
Yeah,
we get
it's
random
a very
shit
it's a
like
very
that,
clever
so.
system. But the reason I think it got wrecked is again because of our friends Blast Pro Series direct inviting a team that hasn't played against anybody ever. So it just that kind of short circuits the whole thing because now instead of it being like you got to qualify for this because your team's called Cloud9 and you're a big esports org, have an invite, you know. So
Yeah.
I think
So
I think that's probably the root cause of everything. Yeah.
So yeah, if somebody from HLTV is listening, your system's clever, but not clever enough, bros.
Ooh, okay. So talking about
Uh,
clever things, there's people over at Blizzard. They're pretty clever, aren't they, Nadia?
Yes, finally. I thought tonight was going to be like a very Overwatch heavy. For my learned friend, Prof is not here. And now I'm going to talk to a wall that doesn't care about Overwatch. Luckily, we have the two guests a bit later on. But I don't know if we cast your memories back to a couple of months ago when
You said casts. I'm internally commentating on Counter Strike right now.
you're going. Okay.
Zone.
So I came in as the fresh new EE female face helping out on the podcast. And the first thing that I almost spoke about was the Shanghai Dragons. And I lost a bet to Prof. I still owe him an MSI Dragon, which he's never going to get. But and I said Shanghai Dragons are going to turn that frown upside down. This is going to be the year because they suddenly got in those 4 players from Kongdun, Pantera. It was just my hopes were high. Anyways, it finally happened this weekend. Stage 3 champions, the Shanghai Dragons.
Oh, Shanghai Dragons.
It happened. So, yeah, that was just fantastic. It was also great because we saw some pharmacy play and then a really, really cool body block from a Mercy protecting and ulting Farah. Like Farah is like an endangered species, I feel, in Overwatch because every single new DPS hero that comes out is made to shoot her out of the sky like a clay pigeon. So having seen something like that, it was just really cool. It was amazing and obviously so happy for them. But now, of course, comes in everybody with their opinions and like stating this is the best turnaround of a team ever. Shanghai Dragons, of course, had the record, the dubious world record for being the professional team with the most losses
In a row.
That's
consecutively.
I will go out on a limb and say that was the greatest feat in esports history. To go 0-42 in the Overwatch League, you paid $100 million to be there, to lose 42 times in a row. My cheers, homie. That's fucking amazing.
I kind of wanted the losing streak just to go on forever,
Yeah,
you know?
forever. It was amazing.
Let's go for 60. But so, yeah, I think that's where I'm just going with this is when I made my prediction about Shanghai Dragons, it was already because they were bringing in fresh blood. So Shanghai Dragons, of course, now running almost a full South Korean roster. It's going great. But it seems to be working for them. It seems to be working very well for them.
Just to confirm, this is all new players and a new coach, correct?
It is not all new players. I think there's about 3 old players left.
Oh, okay.
Gregorius, the play times aren't looking fantastic for the oldest players if I'm thinking now, but yeah, the majority, the play that I'm thinking now, it is more of a new. Sorry, I'm like thinking, I look like I'm having a stroke, but no. Those 4 players from Pantera is definitely getting a lot of play time. I haven't seen Gregory playing that much. Which is
You were just talking about EE appointments earlier on, so
okay, let's not go there, shame. I love her. But anyway, so we've got the wins in, and nobody could have really predicted that. So
is it the greatest comeback in Overwatch history? Because I don't think it is. I think it's nonsense. How is it a comeback if it's not the
Does
same
Overwatch
team?
even have history?
It's not the same team. Okay, well, we're building it. We're building it right now, right here. It's not. At the end of the day, it's not the same team. I think maybe if you start looking at like management, and you're like, you know what, those guys made some great purchases of players.
Just not in stage 2 or stage 1.
Well, it was turning around. It was turning around. So I think them you can really commend. The new players, of course, you can commend, but you can't really say it is a turnaround because what is left from season 1 Shanghai Dragons is just
The jersey.
it's yeah, it's basically the logo. It's not the same team at all. To say that it's a turnaround, nope. Sorry.
Yeah,
I don't agree with you, Dexerto.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Just because, like, if you romanticize it and try to sort of use like the English term personification of a of an entity or a brand, then like, oh yeah, that's a big turnaround for Shanghai Dragons. But if you consider that a team is people, it ain't the same people. That's just, I think on a human level, it just ain't. It can't be, because it's just it might have the same logo. Maybe it's probably the same ownership, maybe some of the same management team, but when it comes down to it, the people who are actually doing the job on the server are so vastly different that it just you can't say that. But
the entire team dynamic is different. And I have to say, like, I remember when they got their first win. Like, it was.
Are you holding your
putting up
finger
your
in
hand?
there, or you want to talk?
Oh, yes, I want to quote my boy Monte Cristo. Sorry, I was reading the tweet before I started.
I was like, why is he just
my
sitting
head went
there?
up
Is there
too
something
fast.
wrong
I'm
with
so
it?
sorry.
It was too high. Like, we couldn't tell.
Okay. Also, I don't want to hear any 0-40 state finals bullshit tomorrow for Shanghai. The management can take credit for turning things around, but this is an entirely different group of players who don't deserve to be even remotely associated with the winless season.
Yep.
That's what Monte Cristo has to say.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
100%
he always drops the truth bombs, and that's why people hate him.
I love him.
But,
Literally-
I think
Me
what
too.
happens is, like you were telling earlier about the casting, you want to build a story. And those things really work, because when Shanghai Dragons won their first game ever, I picked away a little tear. I was like, "That's so beautiful. My black blood burns blue, whatever." But
I cried too, because I was so enthused by this losing run. It stopped. It was like I was rooting for the losing to continue because it was so entertaining. The story, great story.
no, let's see people walk crying from the stage every week.
So you go have like an emotional detox at a Shanghai Dragons game. It's like,
They won! No, they won!
But anyways, it was fantastic. So that happened. It was great. It was fantastic. Other thing that's happening in Overwatch League, we're going to get to the Overwatch World Cup in a little bit, but Overwatch League's local homestand things have now been confirmed for next year. 52 events, local games.
Whew.
Let's see them pull it off.
That is a lot. If you consider just like they've been having relatively sporadic events. If you think about esports in general, like generally most esports build up to a stadium event after a whole online season of some kind. Now all of it is on LAN at live venues that aren't the Blizzard studio. That's the Blizzard Arena. That's actually that sounds nuts. Like, this is not really where we're gonna find out. Like, is this really the real shit? Is this what they say it is?
No, definitely. Sorry, go.
What exactly are they doing? Are they going to have because I know there was that Philadelphia thing where they had that home stadium and the team played from there. Are they just going to have once a week, each of the teams going to be at their own stadium playing the game there? Or is they're shipping in the other team to come there and play them like LA Lakers versus Chicago Bulls or some shit?
Teams are going to be traveling. So it's going to change the entire dynamic of how the league actually has played out. I know stage playoffs are going to fall away, which is always the most dramatic games.
So now it's literally like the Premier League, where it's just a league, no
Or the
playoffs.
NBA league.
That's how it will come across. But I can say, even to watch.
Oh, no. You're right.
The homestand weekends have been some of the most exciting things, and it's so much fun to actually afterwards go on Reddit and you see all the fans that were there and just how excited everybody was. So I'm really, really hoping that they do pull it off. I think it's gonna take a hell of a lot to pull it off. But
the logistical challenge. I mean, I'm just thinking again. How the frick are they going to broadcast this? This is we're going to require a production team, literally the NBA have to do.
Pretty much. And also the traveling for teams in go, because now also we're sitting with your Pacific and Atlantic teams, European, Chinese,
So they're going to be traveling to Korea and to China for these games.
That will happen. I actually saw, if I can just open my right little note here, the schedule have been posted.
Oh, okay. You pop that link, I'll bring it up on stream.
Yeah, if I could find it.
If you could find it, okay.
Let's take a break. Let's take a break. Okay.
I know we always make jokes about me making every conversation about Dota, but I just want to add like a little thing. You know, the fact that you said your subreddit when the homestead games, home stance games or whatever happened, and then people like, oh, we're so happy for attending, just makes me think about every Dota 2 event. Every time without fail, there'll be a Reddit post. Oh man, I bought VIP tickets. It was so trash. What a waste of money. Fuck you, ESL. It's so hilarious. Like a meme at this point, buying VIP tickets for Dota events. So shout out to Overwatch subreddit for having nice people.
We need more LANs. You know, the South African thing. We need more LANs, guys. How many people were at that LAN you went to last weekend, Carmel?
Well, okay, we're gonna get to that later. But it's a 16-team LAN and 14 teams showed up. So
how many were in the crowd? Was there a crowd?
Me, my mom, my dad, my sister, Energy's owner, and ex-teammate to the people. That was who's there for the semi-final, the lower bracket final.
Oof. Need more events, guys. How's Overwatch League gonna pull it off?
Yes,
that was worse than I thought, Carmel. I didn't know what I was asking.
I didn't expect that. I thought someone's girlfriend would. Oh wait, it's Dota. They don't have.
Woo! Wait, are you telling me? Esports players go to an event without people bowing to them and swinging from their goddamn arms, Nadia?
Like hanging on a pick. How are they even playing?
They're on picks, right?
Esports player.
Esports player, muscle, isn't it?
Yes. Okay, so let's come back to the Overwatch League. So,
back to Overwatch.
I mean, just in general, it sounds like it's going to be quite an event. So I'm actually really excited to see how it pans out, because really what this does is they've done the proof of concept for the first few seasons. They've basically sold these franchises. Now they've proved that the home game concept does work, but will it work 52 times is the question. So that's really where we're going to find out, like, is their plan solid? Is the viewership really there? Are the fans really interested? Are they going to have to do the close angle into the 15 people who came?
Yeah,
you know?
Push everybody into the front seats. So yeah, the last homestand weekend, this is going to be next leg. It's going to be the LA Valiant. Not doing too great, so I think that as one of the, I don't know, for me personally, like one of the weaker teams, it will be interesting to see who actually shows up for that. But this is obviously a very big investment for all these teams as well, who've had to actually get these stadiums. So yeah, here we go.
Well, a little tip for the LA Valiant: if they want to host an event in LA, apparently you can hire out a furniture store and you can run it from there. It's a very close, intimate experience.
Got an esports in the furniture business. LA Valiant.
Yeah,
I just shouldn't sing.
No.
I think LA Valiant should pay you to make that a fucking song. Okay, I get my upvote, man. You and Imagine Dragons.
Oh.
So let's talk a little bit local. We've got a little bit of time before we got to get our guests on. So we were talking Dota. It was the VS Gaming Masters CSGO tournaments the last few weekends. We had Rush in between, and now we have another VS Gaming event, the Dota 2 Masters.
Or championship.
Championship. Yeah, whatever. I mean, this is also where it gets confusing with the tournament names. But anyway, I tweeted about it saying I felt like the production was improved in that it was easier to watch. I mean, we no longer had the shaky cam, so no more horribly diseased person with dysentery holding the camera. We could actually see what was going on, which was really helpful. And actually, I was actually speaking privately to one of the production guys and just giving him some of my thoughts, and I saw him actually doing some of those things on the stream, which was quite cool. So, props to them for actually listening and just making it a little bit more easy to watch. I mean, they improved on something that was really bad and it became okay, which I think deserves praise, but it still had a few issues, right, Carmel?
A few kicks, right? So I'll be honest, you and Prof had this conversation with me like 3 weeks ago already, and you're like, oh, it was bad here, whatever. And I was like, I couldn't care because I didn't watch because it was CSGO and I don't care, right? But now I was at this Dota event on Saturday, and there was it was better. There was no shaky cam. The panel and stuff looked much better, minus the
They
sunglasses.
put the
wearing
camera
on
down.
panel.
I mean, like, put
It
put the
was.
camera
It was.
down, guys.
The panel was 100 times better, right? The social media was also good. I wanted to say there was lots of tweets.
I hear
Who
they've got a
won,
new
who
social
lost,
media
right?
manager. Do you think she'd started already by then?
I do. She was working there. I saw her doing the phone thingies or computer thingies to do the
So,
thing. So
Yeah,
they
you know
have-
what we found out? That Glenn was wrong about something. They can actually afford to have somebody do social media. Glenn, you were wrong.
haven't seen that one before. So yeah, their social media was better. The panel looked much better, but there was still a bit of a couple of production yikes, to be perfectly honest. Okay, there was a case where games going on. All right, then the casters are still talking. You can hear the game sounds, things happening, and then it just panned to like a shot of the box randomly, and that's what we see on stream. And I'm like, okay, all right, happens
Nice
again
box.
at some later points in the stream. You have a case of like the random ad break running during the. It's not even an ad break because an ad doesn't play. It's just a graphic running for no reason during the game. There was the infamous case of panels running, the draft's going, everything's going fine, everybody's talking, it's going well, and then they pan to the casters who weren't involved in any of the process at the time, playing on their cell phones and shit. And they look at the camera and it's like, why are we looking? What's going on here, boys? And production doesn't know what's going on, camera doesn't know what's going on. It's like, okay, we had to watch that. It was fucking hilarious, and I enjoyed it because of how hilarious it was. But I don't think that's your goal as a production crew. I don't know. It was better, but
Yeah,
I still need some work.
I think overall, improved, but you can kind of see they're not guys used to doing live broadcasts. You know, the production people are people who are used to making YouTube videos, so it's a very, very different medium, as it were. And obviously, you don't have room for making mistakes, because when you make a mistake, the people on the stream kind of have a go at you. I mean, in Scarpy's case, his shoes were dirty, they were having a go at him. So, I mean, that's just how stream chat works. And obviously, our viewer expectations in South Africa are of massively high quality on massively low budget. So, there's always going to be that disconnect. And I don't think we'll ever fully bridge that, but it's still kind of like we do expect a little better. Hopefully, it continues to improve and they actually listen to what you're saying here.
I think simple is best, right? You don't need to be fancy with like graphics going through the game or like getting booth shots and shit. It just doesn't work. You don't have the budget or the technology for that. So don't just have the game, have the panel, show the casters when you're supposed to show the casters. Like after the game, it's a simple thing. If you're doing production for Dota, do not after the game ends go to the shitty ass scoreboard in the game through the observer screen. Cut your casters then. You guys had a camera there. Go to your casters, hear their final thoughts on the game. Let Halbert or Snare throw back to the panel and bam, high quality production for low, like minimal effort, right?
Yeah,
Use the tools that you have.
I agree. You don't need to be overly elaborate. Thankfully, like the wipes and stuff were better than the first week of CSGO, where it would be this very elaborate thing with sound effects and would just cover things. So, I mean, again, better, but still options. I'm just glad VS are actually taking steps to improve, because it almost felt like every year it would just sort of almost get worse, which is just, very disheartening, and probably why we've bagged on them as much as we have, because kind of we also have an expectation of improvement, right?
For sure. And I mean, if we're just going to compare to Comic-Con, I will say at least the stream ran, so to props to you there.
Yep. You managed to get that YouTube stream running. I've only had one YouTube stream failure ever in several hundred attempts at it, so they were really unlucky. But still, when it happens, it makes you look bad. So you got to kind of be ready for all eventualities. I think overall, now that they've got a social media manager, that's probably going to alleviate some of our concerns about not posting about the games. It was better, but again, just got to be a little bit more in advance. It's still that sort of situation where you don't know what you're watching, when does what game start, that sort of thing. So let's see. Well, I'll give him a bit more grace, but if Comic-Con's a dumpster fire again, I'm going to pour more fuel on that fire, bro. That's just the way it's going to be. And there's something I want to actually mention, and it's maybe not related just to them, but I almost feel like panels in South African esports are almost a little bit of a silly thing to me as well. Like, I've been on plenty and I got paid for it and I took their money all day long. But to me, it just seems like filler content that mostly people aren't interested in. And what do you think of that, Kamil?
Let Nadia answer first, like from the
No,
unbiased perspective.
I'm just thinking it's probably money that can go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Especially if there's so much that they can still do to improve just the basics.
Yeah,
Then
like
you don't need
you
some fancy someone with a hairstyle and a doo-doo sitting there and going, it's unnecessary.
because like what I hear from most panels is like guys are afraid to they're afraid to criticize teams and players because the guys are sitting there and they're worried that they're not going to be their friend anymore. You know, that kind of crap is what happens. So you'll hear like vague platitudes about how everybody's good and these guys are just a bit gooder, you know? So it just doesn't really add anything to the narrative. It's kind of like the problem League of Legends used to have, where there was nobody that was willing to say anything bad. And Dota even suffers from this on an international level as well. It's just like you actually need, if there's a panel, it actually needs to be a little bit savage at times, because otherwise there's nothing interesting they're saying. And to me,
remember we just have the problem of nobody wants to be criticized.
Oh yeah,
It's
nobody wants to criticize them because
such-
everybody wants to be the player's mates.
Yeah, it's nobody wants to be criticized, because if you do, you are being a nasty bully. And also the question of everybody's so close together and it's friends, and the only thing that ever really happens is a bitch fight. So it's frustrating, but I mean, if you can't take it, like when you're playing in your professional atmosphere and somebody's talking on a panel about how you're playing and then you can't even take that, then that's a flippin' joke. But then also, okay, we don't need the panel, just show the video nicely.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lack of B-roll footage and like just features and things that they can play on the stream. You know, the fact that it goes back to a logo in most South African esports broadcasts and there aren't any ads or anything. Like, I think that doesn't help the overall product. Again, you may ask, well, why should we do that for 100 people? And I think that's a valid thing as well. But just like
the question comes back to why have the panel in the first place? Because again, I have also worked panel and I enjoy panel work. I wish fucking people hired me for more shit. But at the same time, if I'm asking me how to do an event, don't have a panel. It's a waste of fucking time and money. Honestly, we are a scene that's not ready for that shit. Like Extreme saying, we don't have the expertise yet to do that. Like, you ask me to be on a panel, I'll be like, I'm a Dota 2 guru. I'm ready for this. But fact of the matter is, like, Dota is a game with you need a really high level of understanding. So technically, you need a lot of skill. But it's also like you don't have that much viewership and stuff coming in. People are there to watch the games, right? Internationally, when you cut from game to panel, you lose more than 40% of your viewership, right?
Always.
And that's like going from 300,000 to, I don't know, like 180,000 or whatever. But in South Africa, you're going from like 100 to like 40 is like not good. That's not good. And I think that point about like people having the guts to say shit on panel, I think that's a good example when we had the Mega 8 Winter Cup a couple of
Donnie,
2017. Yes. Yeah, when you had Donnie and Snare there, that's like, whoa, that's a pretty good panel, because Donnie's like, he was at the time the best Dota 2 player in South Africa. He's going to say whatever the hell he wants. And he's Donnie, and we want to listen to that. That's good shit. But like having a couple of casters on a panel just talking about Dota is like not that great. And as a production company, I think rather just maybe get those same people to cast your games instead of having one casting pair casting 100 games in a day.
2 pairs,
swap it out. Give these people a rest, you know? So you still have the expertise there, but in a role where they're more needed, to be perfectly honest.
You can even do just a stage host style thing where the host welcomes everybody, tells them what it's all about, what's the prize pool, throw to casters, off we go, you know? So, but that also...
Well, there was no... We crowded that land, so that wasn't really...
but I mean, like a host for the show or something. But even then, like, I think it's also a cardinal sin in broadcasting to leave the casters talking for 20 minutes before a game. I think that's like an unfair kind of thing to do, and we've seen that from them too. With
no one has that much to say to each other.
I think to me, it's just like when the game starts, there's enough time in the first few minutes while the draft's going on for what needs to be said. You know, so I really feel it's kind of, I understand why we do it, because we want to do what international broadcasts do, but I almost feel, as you guys say, maybe it's an expense. And again, I will take your money, tournament organizers, all day, every day, and I will enjoy it because I like doing panels. But I just question the value of it, especially when what's being said tends to be vague platitudes. It tends to be information that isn't really telling anybody anything they didn't know before. And of course, if you do go and be like critical or whatever, let me give you guys an example. EveTech Champions League last year, I was on a panel with Prof. Prof and I actually spoke before the broadcast. Okay, who's going to be the bad guy today? Who's going to go and wreck their team and tell them that they cuck? We're going to literally do that on the panel so that there's actually something interesting, so that it isn't crap. And you know what players do? They'll DM you and tell you that you're a horrible person and this and that. And how dare you say the quality of CS wasn't great? Because these guys are very invested in the scene. They're very... I understand it, but that's not helping the broadcast, guys.
Yeah, people want to actually watch it, and they don't. Oh no, they're doing very well. Let's watch them
from
do well.
From my point of view, if you're watching the stream and you're getting upset with me and it's working, you know, I know that probably sounds again out there, but I'm also the guy who would stream on my own channel and tell viewers in chat to fuck off, and ban them. So I don't mind doing that because the point is for it to actually be entertaining, and I think that's what a lot of viewers in South Africa kind of lose sight of as well. They want the perfect analysis, or they want all these things, but they lose sight of the fact that it should be entertaining. And I think even as broadcasters going on and trying to bring all this huge knowledge, it doesn't make it entertaining. It just makes it sound like a bunch of talking heads like us.
Yeah. If you want to do that, get on a fucking podcast, motherfuckers.
Yep.
DM for an invite.
Tell you what, some broadcasts have felt like a podcast because you're being sort of hung out to dry for 30 minutes by the director or whatever before the game starts. So.
Yikes. Yeah, that is a cut to ad break, play shitty ass stream music. Don't ever do that. That's career destroying for commentator.
It would have been perfect if when you said that, like cut to ad break, start playing the advertisement music. And then you should have done it, and then cut to our interview.
Yes, that would have worked, actually. That would have worked.
Okay, but before we do that, can I actually talk about the Dota at that land? Because we just been moaning about it.
I like moaning.
I thought that was it.
Fun.
Sorry, Nadia. I had to listen to you talk about Overwatch. You gotta listen to me talk about...
Oh yeah, but I just want to mention that the league, the way it will be structured, is only going to be out in August. Stay tuned.
We're really thankful for that.
It's a pleasure.
3 months break of that shit game. Kappa. Okay.
It's next week.
So the VS Gaming Dota 2 LAN was actually a pretty nice one. Okay, so like I think maybe I'm making jokes and stuff about spectators and stuff, but like I think we've all been to GGC, right? That's been going on for 10 years. It was like the highlight of the year for many years. But this LAN ran way better. The production and stuff for terms of like the players, the booths, the game, the scheduling and stuff. On fucking point. Games ran on time. Like the backup PCs were there. The admins were on the ball. Like tournament ran smooth. Dota was great. Goliath Gaming, the dark horses of the event. Nobody pinned them to win the event. Fucking went and they did it. They beat Energy. They beat Sun 5, the two favorites. Like was some good shit. They had a new player named Soup. 16-year-old kid. Nobody ever heard of this guy. Played SA pubs and shit. He just joined the team. He was a sub for the event. Wrecked face, man. Like and it was a rough first couple of days for him. Like I mean, Friday it was a rough day. Like Saturday had some rough lane matchups, but the one time he had an easy matchup, the guy popped off. In the most important moments of the games, he popped off. I would go out on a limb and say, because I'm that angry panelist, in Game 5 of the best of 5 grand final, he did a hell of a lot more work in a much rougher position than Sin 5's carry. That's just my opinion. I think the Dota at that event was awesome. It was a good event. Though one thing, if I could change one thing from that LAN, and this is for any local esports competition, is you cannot have a game advantage in a grand final. That practice in esports is dead. No longer can you go, okay, this guy won upper bracket game match, so in the finals he has a 1 game advantage. And why the fuck have a best of 5 grand final, to be perfectly honest, when it's actually a best of 4? Or it's ridiculous. That practice is dead.
You know what else is ridiculous? Like I've actually learned to yawn with my mouth closed on this podcast. I don't know, like...
I'm sorry I'm so boring to you, Nadia. I'm sorry my game is like the best game in the world too, you know? I wish we could just be stuck on Goat's meta forever.
So it is time to talk about the guests that are on our show tonight, and it was, of course, the Esports Central podcast, because you've only been listening for like an hour until we got to this point. through the magic of editing, we have Paragon. He's not real. He's edited in, yeah. And then we've got virgolizz, who's definitely not real. I mean, she's not moving, is she, guys?
Oh,
So, guys, how you doing? Paragon, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no, awesome to be here. Super stoked about it.
Shame.
Look happier, bro.
Oh, shit. This is my happy face.
So, the thing
Paragon
with...
you should just be happy he's on this podcast, Esports Central podcast, talking about PMA stuff instead of destroying his career with VS Gaming on my podcast a couple of weeks back.
Yeah.
I think
This
he's still
is true.
recovering from that.
PTSD from that. Are you going to be
Yeah.
okay there, dude?
Yeah. It's fine. Obviously there was a whole bunch of drama, but it's still kind of ongoing for Overwatch, but I'm not gonna get into it.
Literally, what you just said there is like what I'd imagine the voiceover would be on that meme with the dog in the burning room. This is fine.
Yeah, pretty much. Accurate description.
So, Liz, why do you look so satisfied with yourself, and why aren't you moving?
My camera is stuck, and I was playing some Apex, and I just got some fuck shit up. So yeah,
Okay,
That-
well
that's
That-
my face when I fuck shit up.
it really is. Okay, well it's actually more pleasant than most people's when they do that, because I don't know if you've seen those sort of photos that you get at like esports events, LAN event where somebody's like just winning and they're like, that kind of
Oh
thing, and it's just-
yeah.
It's
That is
your
great.
your fuck shit up face is pretty good. Like I wish I could pull that off. So.
Very approachable. Very approachable.
So, of course, our guests tonight, for you guys who don't know them, they're both heavily involved in the competitive Overwatch scene within South Africa. Paragon as a caster, as a player as well, and Liz also as a player and as a manager, I gather, yes?
Yeah, community manager for the Overwatch World Cup.
Yeah, well, that's a lofty title. So, do you have control over everything? Like, do you get to choose everything with...
Yeah, with the other two committee members, we make all the decisions. So Sam, Tech Girl, is the general manager, so she would be the boss. But in the end, we are all just making decisions together. Me, the third person being Groot, who is the coach.
Okay, awesome. Well, Gata Lily, do you want to jump in here? You're the Overwatch player here, so you're
Yeah,
going to know
it's
more
like-
than me.
I looked down for a second and I just noticed what Paragon was wearing. I'm like, I'm so glad that I went to go and change my shirt because we would have been wearing the same thing. And
Ooh.
that would have been so.
I would have I am wearing mine, but my camera is still working, so you can't see.
Okay,
No.
that would have been
Saved.
fantastic,
Saved.
actually. Then.
So actually, what is important about why we're having them here is because the competitive Overwatch scene in South Africa is coming together to get the South African side to the Overwatch World Cup. So it's kind of important. They need money. So there's a donation link at the bottom. It goes to my bank account. I curate it, and then it gets to them. No, we won't do that. But we will give you guys the links if you do want to jump in and actually help the guys get across. Can you tell us how supporters can actually help you guys?
Yeah, we have a Backer Buddy fundraiser set up. I can send you the link for that. So you can just obviously put in any amount there that you wish. And then we have fundraisers that we're running in Cape Town, and we have ones planned in Joburg. The fundraisers are obviously open for anyone. We're having our first one this weekend on the 20th, the Saturday, from 4 till 2 a.m. 4 o'clock the afternoon till 2 a.m. in the morning. It's going to be a LAN, Overwatch LAN, but I mean, you can obviously play whatever is on the computers available at 80K Arena in Claremont. So all the 80K has been kind enough to open their doors for us completely, where basically they just giving us the venue and we can do what we want there to raise the funds needed. All entry fees is going directly to us, and they're not taking any of it, which is also amazing of them.
Very cool.
So yeah, we'll be running a few other ones as well. You can just find that on our social media. They're on Twitter.
Okay, so just to back it up a bit, I know that previously this is the 4th World Cup, right?
Yeah,
Overwatch
the
World
game,
Cup?
I think it's only been out 4 years, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and South Africa played in the first one, didn't do too great. What changed this year to let us qualify again?
Okay, so this is the first year where it's like a complete open invitation. So any country can participate. So there was 3 phases. phase 1 was getting enough endorsements, so seeing enough interest within the community within that country. And we made it through. So we went to phase 2, where it was the actual voting for the committee. So actually, after you get phase 1, or after you get through to phase 1 from phase 1 to phase 2, you're through. So you're guaranteed a spot to play at the Overwatch World Cup. So from there on out, you're in. You just now need to get your team there.
So and it's 47 teams that's going to be, but that is
Yeah.
eligible this year.
Yeah.
So, basically, so I wanted to ask, what does our team look like? But I was told that we do not have a team that's been confirmed as yet. We actually know that.
Yeah, the team is kind of confirmed, but we can only announce it on the 29th of July after Blizzard has. They want to announce it first, and then only can we announce it.
Okay, and by when do you actually need to have everything in place to know that you are going to Anaheim?
Well, it's all up to the funds. If we can, we're gonna push it as far as we can. If we don't make the funds like a month before the time, we'll still push it until like we can't anymore, because people are gonna have to get visas before that, and might be for nothing. But everyone is aware of that, and everyone is everyone is, what's the word? Oh my gosh, that begins my word problem.
Committed.
Committed to as willing to make that sacrifice, because it's such a dream come true. So we spoke to the players all one-on-one. We made sure everyone, we made sure that everyone's financial situations can, do this. So yeah, we're all basically gonna have to get visas, and so there is no cutoff date. Basically, there is no cutoff date. It's all up to us to hopefully get those funds in time, but you will push it as far as we can.
What is it for?
I'm going to jump in. Wait. What's the actual time frame between when you need to actually sort out these visas? Because like American visas aren't the quickest thing.
No, it's not. So the thing is, we need to wait for. So we have a top 12. That top 12 those players needs to be approved by Blizzard, and we're only going to get that back hopefully anything on the 29th or before the 29th. They'll probably give it up before the 29th, so we'll know like what players there. Hopefully everyone will be approved, but if there's not someone that is approved, obviously that person can't come. That's it. So what was the question again? I'm talking so much.
What's your time frame? That's all. So obviously, when does the World Cup just start?
Well, our first game will be on the 30th of October. So we're planning on flying the 26th, so that we can give the players enough time to get rid of that jet lag. Hopefully we can get a place there to boot camp for a day. But yeah, so that's the time frame.
I think you'll be okay with that sort of time frame. Actually, it's not that bad. I mean, you could get an emergency visa if it came down to it. So, but as long as it's like done within time, it's actually fine. I should have probably checked the dates, and I was looking as you were talking. I'm like, okay, that wasn't maybe the best question actually, but in a lot of games, it does happen sometimes where you only find out like 2 weeks before you have to fly to China or something. So.
Yeah.
I think you guys are kind of lucky that you're not in quite that situation. But
yeah.
It's still, I'd imagine, with getting sponsors on board and everything, it sounds like a long way away, but it's really not. You've probably only got a couple months before it's hitting sort of too late realms, yeah?
Yep, yeah.
So, this is actually considerable funding that you actually need.
Yes, so we approached a few travel agencies, looked at the best pricing possible, and we asked them for quotes for 10 people to fly down for a week worth of accommodation and flights. It will be 300,000 rand. But me and Tegel, we're fully willing to pay for ourselves if we should fall short on the funds. But hopefully we can make up that 300k, and then it would be great. Then we can cover everything, because we have to be there for a week. It's from the 30th, and then BlizzCon ends on the 3rd of November, so we'll probably like fly back the next day. So it's actually 8 days of being in America, and it's really expensive. Also, the really, really big problem or stress currently is the hotels. So we obviously don't want to we're going to spend a lot on transport, and we want to get as close as possible to the venue. But the hotels are getting booked out left, right, and center. So that is the thing that we need to. Yeah, so that is the thing we need to cover as soon as possible so that we can get a nice hotel as close as possible to the venue.
So
And obviously affordable as well.
here's the interesting thing: where you're going, Anaheim Convention Center. I was at
Yeah.
in January at a different convention. So,
Oh,
if you need some help on where, because I've been traveling there like every
Oh.
January for years. So, if you
Wow.
like, let's talk maybe tomorrow or something, or after
Yeah,
the recording. I'm
sure.
happy to give you some recommendations on
Yes, please. That will help a lot.
where to go.
Good
That would
guy
be awesome.
extremes.
Well, it's just funny. I mean, it's like, oh, what are the chances of that? Also, Anaheim is like Kempton Park with Disney World, and you guys won't get that because you're from Cape Town.
Oh, yeah. I'm not originally from here. I know those areas.
Yeah, it's not the greatest area, but it has a nice convention center and it has Disney World. So
Yeah. Oh, can't ask for more than that.
The unfortunate thing with this is just that it does make it like especially difficult for I almost want to say smaller countries with smaller player bases to get into this, because what I did read was that Blizzard will be covering like complete costs for the top 10 teams, which obviously, I get that makes sense. It's a lot of incentive to get the best there. But they did mention that teams that are eligible will also be able to apply for some hotel support. So maybe that's also just something you can look at. I think you've
No.
probably seen it. Is it like not?
No. So anyone that has like any general ticket from Blizzard gets this coupon that you can use at these specific hotels that have this coupon thingy with Blizzard. But like most of them are booked out already because the BlizzCon tickets are already sold out, and all those people get this coupon, so they're all going to be. They can also book at these places where we can book, and I'm not sure what the percentage is that you get off of that fee. I'm not 100% sure what that is. But I'm pretty I'm not pretty sure, but I think that we will most probably not get a booking in these hotels.
So it's like probably like I was thinking, oh, good guy Blizzard finally coming through.
No,
man.
unfortunately not. No.
Yeah,
Alright,
you're probably
so
gonna have to
Paragon,
stay
like,
a
a
little
year
bit
ago?
away, unfortunately, and actually Uber or something. But
Yeah.
it's
So-
that's kind of the thing there. There's just
We-
not enough hotels around there.
Yeah, we did. I'll talk to you about this hotel afterwards. I can't remember the name now, but there's a 10-minute walk from the venue, and the pricing was pretty good as well. And it had like a little pharmacy and everything there, so it was like really nice for if we can get a spot there. But we can speak about it afterwards. Maybe the hotel.
Yeah, sure.
Or
So big question here for Paragon. Could you tell us about the people that are involved with actually getting the team over there? Because I mean, Liz was mentioning her role, and she mentioned Sam briefly. Like who all are the people who are involved?
I'm not specifically sure who you're referring to. Do you mean like
Job
travel
titles.
agencies?
No,
Coaching you.
Coach.
Okay, so
morale
support
officer.
staff. Okay.
Salad maker.
Yeah,
whatever.
so at the moment, we kind of have like a pretty thin support staff structure until we kind of get the ball rolling a bit. So at the moment, it's just myself and General Sound, who is a pretty well-known local player. He's been in the scene for quite a while. So predominantly my role is just to help out Liz with a lot of community.
We lost your audio there, mate.
It's because I'm using push to talk. Sorry.
No worries.
So my role is pretty much just mostly to help out Liz with the community-based stuff. So just like content generation, socials, the Discord management, things like that. And then General Sound is more specifically there to help out groups with the coaching, scheduling of scrims and practices, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And how's it looking?
Well, honestly speaking, I haven't been very privy to a lot of the scrims and things like that, but I feel like the general morale is quite high. A lot of the players are very excited. Obviously, the whole committee is very excited, and the community as well. Everyone's very keen on it, and especially because when we started out, when the announcement came out for all the changes for the World Cup, and then we had basically this whole thing where we had to get a certain amount of endorsements. A lot of people kind of didn't really think we'd actually get this far. So the kind of feeling is positive. Right now, it's mostly a learning experience. We're hoping that we do perform well, and I'm sure we definitely will, and we have a good platform to do so.
Do you at this stage know already what group you will fall in?
No, we
We
don't
will-
know that yet.
Not yet. Okay. And when will that be out?
I have no idea. It's Blizzard. I don't know.
I mean,
So
it's in October. I think groups is like still a bit early, you know.
Probably a couple of weeks before.
So the thing is, with the actual tournament, there are preliminary games before, which are brackets, and then it's group stages. So we'll only really know the groups probably at the actual.
Oh yeah, that's true. The
Okay.
single eliminations on the 30th. Yeah.
So
That's
there's
how
actually
far we
like
got previously.
So it's actually like a placement tournament where
Yeah.
they knock out some from the field to thin it down enough to fit within the group structures.
Yeah, so it's pretty much just for
five. There's a top 5, and then that's guaranteed, and then everybody else under that basically needs to play for a place. Yeah.
That's brutal. That's really brutal.
That's rough.
At America.
So, are you guys confident of getting through the single elim stage? I mean, do you feel that the player the player capital that we have in South Africa is good enough for that?
Well, if we look at the evidence that we have, so we have scrimmed Egypt when we were doing we were looking for our top 12, and I mean we were mishmashing these people or the players they don't have like synergy or anything like that yet. Where Egypt was playing with a already 6-man team that they have had for a while. They just put them over into the World Cup team. So these are players that already have synergy, and we played them with like mashing everyone, and it was a draw. Like it was, I think, 3-3, which is really, really good. Like, and also we scrimmed, I think it was it Greece, and they also were playing with they weren't mashing like we were. Like we would literally like put in different players every game, and it was, I think, like we lost with one map, and everything we held well. Like there was no stomps. So I think it's looking really good for the mere fact that we haven't even played with our best top 6 that have been at coaching or anything. And they're just coming in and playing, and they're actually like taking maps from these countries, and I mean, also if you look at ping and all that, like these countries are playing with a lot better ping, and we can still take maps from them. So it's definitely a very positive sign for me. I think we'll do great. I think we'll do great.
Glad to hear it. Do you think that going and actually playing on land suddenly with low ping, that's going to take a little bit of adjustment for the players? Because I mean, we're all used to playing on very high ping.
You're probably going to like overshoot and stuff a lot, but that's hopefully we can get some boot camp set up for them beforehand, because we can't use the ones at the actual LAN at Blizzard, BlizzCon. So we have to like get something ourselves. I'm sure we can get some type of esports lounge there that we can go boot camp at, but we're gonna have to get them used to it, because I do think it will have an influence on their gameplay.
Oh, for sure.
All right, so
go, Carmel.
I've got a question for Paragon, or both of you actually, but Paragon can answer first. What do you like? Obviously, for the players and you guys involved and stuff in the process, it's like a real exciting thing to go to the Blizzard World Cup. But I feel like we've seen a lot of teams make overseas trips, mainly like South African CSGO and Dota teams going to WESG and stuff. And yeah, it's a nice experience for the players. They get to play at a high level. They can go after party and shit afterwards. But I feel like it doesn't really help the scene back home much, right? So do you guys think the going over to the Overwatch World Cup, it can help the South African Overwatch scene in any ways? I don't know. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
So on a personal level, when the whole thing was announced, the way I felt about it is I just felt like it's a really good opportunity for 6 players to kind of go over and, like you said, like have a really good experience. But as for what it does for the scene locally, it's kind of like we've had help from international coaches, and a lot of them have kind of been exposed now to some of the local players, and they've actually been impressed with the level that they play at. So I mean, it kind of it exposes the players to that international scene, and like obviously I'm not gonna make any assumptions, but we do have teams that play like in open division in Europe. So you never know when they're going to get picked up by like an EU team, and I feel like it just gives people something to play for, kind of, because obviously we know that there's a lot of like everybody wanted to be in the World Cup squad. There were so many people that signed up to trial, so it gives people a reason to get involved in the competitive scene and kind of develop their craft where they can play with these players and then get to the same level and then maybe be in the next World Cup.
Right, that's pretty cool.
So, question then, last question probably.
No, I got like 20 more. Don't worry.
Do you go for it? Go for it then. I was just like, is South Korea gonna take it again?
That's a good one.
Yeah, I'm not
Yes.
gonna make any bets.
I know enough about Korean esports to know that Overwatch is on lockdown. It doesn't matter what it says on the tin, what it says on the team jersey. It's the Koreans, right?
For sure.
Yeah, universal rule.
Just seems like it. So other question I had with the team selection being relatively soon. Like, I mean, we're still talking 3 months out from the actual tournament start. Generally speaking, most top level teams in esports, they don't actually last for very long. It'll be like a 3-month run of being really good, and then a lineup change will happen or something like that to sort of stay at the top. You guys are choosing a team pretty soon now, and I understand why, because you need to get the visas and all that sort of thing. But what it does sort of introduce is, these are the hottest players right now, but in 4 months' time, they might not be.
As the meta changes.
Yeah, exactly. How many players are you actually going to choose? Are you going to make sure that you have enough sort of padded in there and enough flexibility so that if, the meta changes rapidly, which it probably won't because it's Blizzard, but you never know. Like, do you guys have that flexibility built in?
Yeah, we do. So we get to take 7 players. The 7th will be the most flexible. So if we do need to switch someone out because of some meta change, we can do that. They'll obviously also be practicing with the team and all that. But yeah, we obviously, you have your dedicated roles. You can't really, you can only flex that much. I mean, a main tank won't flex. You probably just want your DPS flexible. And I think we do actually have very flexible people on the team. Shit, I almost said a name. I literally almost dropped a name.
Wait.
But I do.
I have a question then. Since you can't say the name, we can't see you, but we can see Paragon. Paragon, could you like draw like a caricature of the team? How's your drawing skills?
No, my drawing skills are terrible.
Okay,
That's out of the question.
Are you a good dancer?
No.
I was thinking maybe
Not
interpretive dance with flags and stuff. Like could you?
Yeah.
I'm actually thinking from your question as well. All these hints that the 2-2 lock might be coming in stage 4 of the Overwatch League.
No ways.
There's rumors.
There are a lot of rumors going on about, but also there's obviously a lot of uproar in other games where the developers are making huge changes before big tournaments. So I'm kind of hoping Blizzard is a bit more conscious about the World Cup. And especially considering that the game's kind of in a meta shift at the moment right now, where obviously you have the GOATS composition, which is well known as being incredibly dominant over a long period of time. But now we're kind of moving into this bunker comp, which people are already complaining about. But it looks to be like it is currently a pretty staple pick. So what I'm hoping is that Blizzard will not kind of cave into criticism and at least keep the meta so that players can develop on that and stick with that instead of having to learn a whole new meta within this period of a month or so.
I don't know. I just have this feeling that is going to happen. I don't want to be like the bearer of bad news, but I'm feeling it in my stars. I don't know.
yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see what Blizzard has in store. But yeah, like I say, I'm just hopeful that they're conscious of the tournament and the players.
So I think we're probably winding this down, but I'm going to ask each of you individually. Could you just tell us what you'd like the esports scene in South Africa to know about Overwatch League? What should they do? Whatever you want to tell them, just your opportunity to tell them, because I mean it's obviously you're used to speaking to Overwatch players, people involved in the Overwatch scene. Here you'd have a little bit of a more diverse audience. Why should they care about what you got going on? Why should they get involved? Do you have a message for them? Go.
Liz, you want to go first?
Paragon. Oh, you need to press that button again.
Yeah, that
okay.
button. That button is the bane of your existence, bro.
Cursing me right now. So the one thing about the Overwatch community that pretty much anyone in the community will tell you is that we're a bunch of very passionate individuals. Like it's something that I've kind of felt is different from other communities, but I don't really want to throw shade and say this community is worse than ours. But the gist of it is that we've got a lot of people that are super involved. You know, we all kind of know each other pretty well, and we've got a lot of characters in the community. And at the end of the day, for us, it's kind of more than just a game or more than just something to watch. It's something that we're all passionate about and invested in. And I feel like when new people get involved in the scene, it kind of sweeps them up. And they also kind of develop that same kind of passion. So, if that's something that you're interested in, then definitely check us out.
Great.
That's sweet.
My turn.
Yes.
So for me, I feel like any exposure, any South African esports related exposure is good exposure. It doesn't really matter what the title is. If we can go to the ESEA and people can be like, oh wow, there's actually esports in South Africa, you actually made it, like that already puts the spotlight on us. And it doesn't necessarily only have to be for Overwatch, but just as like our esports community as a whole within South Africa. So I'm just really looking at the exposure part that this entails for our country, for our esports scene, and yeah, I just think that everyone can benefit from it, and not just only Overwatch. If the right people get involved, you never know who's going to be there at BlizzCon, and you never know who might want to invest or anything. I mean, we all hope for that, but it might not necessarily happen. But there's always that possibility, and that's how I think we should all just like stand together as a esports South African community.
Absolutely. I think it's a very worthy cause for everybody to get involved with. I'll just bring it up on screen for the guys watching and maybe not listening. If you're listening on Spotify or iTunes or something, listen harder because you won't be able to see it. But bring it up for you guys. There's the Twitter account from the team, the Overwatch World Cup 2019 Team South Africa. It's at ZA Barbarians. If you want to follow them, that's at ZA Barbarians. Definitely follow them. They don't have enough, guys. Only $4.95. Jump on there and they'll keep you updated with what's going on. Also, the Backer Buddy campaign is here as well. If we go over the Backer Buddy page, you can see all the information about that. At the moment, quite a long way away from the fundraising target, so definitely get involved there, guys, if you do want to see a South African team succeed. And the last time there was a South African team under the ZA Barbarians name, it was a Battlefield team with Barry Anthrax Lazada in it, and they actually won the whole thing. So that's going back a few years, but it did happen. So, you too could be a supporter of a world champion team. Are we going to win, guys? Come on, pin your flags to the mast.
Yeah, we're gonna go for it.
We're gonna
a couple of games.
Definitely going to give it a good shot, and I'd like to see you guys succeed. I'd say from my perspective, if you guys make it through the single elimination and I think that's a really big victory, and actually being in the competition, putting on a good show, I think would be great. Anything more than that, I'm sure you guys would be pleased with. But we do also, I know from Counter-Strike, because we've sent many teams over, we're used to getting wrecked. So it's kind of exciting to see a team that's got some great prospects. So I really do wish you guys all the best. I hope things work out, and we'll definitely be supporting you guys and just updating people on what's going on with you guys for the coming months.
Cool. That's great, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for having us and shining a light on our cause.
You're absolutely welcome. So thanks, guys, for watching. That's been the Esports Central Podcast, episode 51 for the 18th of July, 2019. And I've been Extremes, and with me, our good friend, Carmel Chikte. Or is he our friend? I don't know. And then we got Gatalili, who you kind of have to be friends with. Because, Gatalili's like, she looks sweet, but it's not true, guys. It's
Sure, yeah.
And then we had Paragon and virgolizz as well on there from the Overwatch World Cup team. So thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Check us out next week. Cheers.